Hi everyone, Vlad here. I'm founder and CEO of Balkans and Folgerly. My co-host today, Brian Minnick, he's Chief Operation Officer at ZeroBounce. Today we will go over the email deliverability topic from the email testing and email validation standpoint, and we'll share some experience, tips and tricks how to be more efficient with your email marketing. So Brian and I have massive experience with email marketing, starting from myself, running Folderly for a year and sales agency called Balkans for almost 5 years. We send over 50 billion emails alongside with our clients by ourselves. So we with our product Folderly, we reached 1 million ARR in 10 months. And we sustaining our clients' inbox, mailbox, domain, IP address health for a while already. So we're helping to avoid those spam problems. And Brian, give you the word told us about the ZeroBounce and your experience with email marketing.
Absolutely. And thank you again for having me as part of a co-host with you. So ZeroBounce is a email validation and deliverability platform. And we have validated over 7 billion emails. We have over 150,000 clients in basically every single country of the world. Our accuracy rate is 98% plus. And I say that because 100% is impossible when it comes to validation and accuracy. There's always some things that can happen there. So, but ZeroBounce is a longstanding high reputation for high security, high accuracy, and high availability. And so very excited to join today and look forward to it, Vlad.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So let's move forward and dive deep to whole email deliverability topic. So let's start with the 3 main pillars on which email deliverability stands. So basically it's leads. You need to take care of your data leads, your lead database, your email addresses in order to send emails. So we'll talk in deep in the further slides. Email infrastructure, where it takes to how you set it up, your mailboxes, your domains, how you manage your DNS settings like SPF, DMARC, DKIM, and BIMI record in order to give your recipient full authentication about you as a sender. So you if you're a legit sender, you must have those under your domain. And how you manage your content and how you send your emails basically. Is it a plain text or HTML letters? How heavy those emails? What kind of links are you using in those emails? Do you use any unsubscribe links? Do you use any attachments? Any spam word that affects email deliverability? So you need to take care of all of those major 3 steps in order to take care of your email deliverability before any email was sent from your mailbox, from your domain, from your IP address. So let's learn more about it and give you some numbers about what happened and how to measure your marketing success, email marketing success with any email sent. Basically, there is 2 main metrics: your email delivery rate and email deliverability rate. The main difference that email delivery, basically ability to send and receive emails, which is in 100%, almost 100% achievable with each and every tool out there. There is a decent amount of tools that you can use or using right now. For example, MailChimp, Outreach.io, Reply, any other tools like Woodpecker, SendGrid, Mailgun, etc. Basically, there's hundreds of tools, and each and every tool already give you the guarantee that your email will be delivered. But when it takes to email deliverability, basically, if you wouldn't care about your lead database, where you get them, basically buy those leads, buy those million of leads out there, never validate them with any tool, or sending the content which is the spam, which is contains spam boards, like links that makes it heavy and it never reach the inbox of your recipient. And if you like misconfigured your domains, IP addresses, mailboxes, basically you never like can achieve the 100% of your delivery, because no one will receive your email. First of all, no one will open it because it end up in the wrong folder, for example, promo folder or its spam folder. And this is the common misunderstanding with tools that guarantee that your email delivery rate would be like 100%, and no one talks about email deliverability. And there is a lot of pitfalls that you need to take care of before any emails would be sent for your domain and mailbox, right? Brian, by the way, I have a question for you. How you identify for you email delivery and email delivery rates as well?
Yeah, so we do a lot of educating here because a lot of our customers are mainly just sending email. So for us, the easiest way I say it is delivery means it was sent, but you don't know if that means delivered to inbox. And so for deliverability, I simplify it to inbox, because that's what this really means. If you send all this mail and it goes into the spam folder, you didn't deliver anything. You delivered a bunch of junk or a bunch of spam. And so really the deliverability for me and how we talk about it is inbox, 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 inbox. It's the holy grail of email marketing. You must be an inbox.
Right. Totally agree on that. So how often we need to test and monitor our inbox placement rate and email deliverability rate when it takes to like successful email marketing campaign, in your opinion?
I would send a test before each campaign if there's dramatic differences. So if you are changing the big content changes or new mail lists, whatever you're doing, I would just recommend to put that step in front of the send, and it just gives you one more chance to see what the outcome might be before you send that campaign. So there's so much work. I think we all, especially in the US, what we just went through for email marketing in the last 3 weeks, it's our hugest, sales and marketing really efforts for the whole year is coming right, just ended. How much work and how much time you're spending on these campaigns and the offers and the content, the images, everything. So important to take that step and test where it might land. And ZeroBounce has some tools as well that help with it. But yeah, Vlad, to me, it's every time. It's part of what we do. We send it every single time, unless it's the exact same message and it's a follow-up or something like that. But can't hurt testing.
Yeah. So in addition to that, from our best experience, from our best practices, which is suggested to do the same. So before you hit the button send, always be aware about your current, for example, your current mailbox health, your domain health, because you never know before, if you never tested before, how successful would be this campaign, right? And you wouldn't know how it can be more successful, why I have so low open rate, where is my results, why no one clicks in the links in my email and no one answers. So basically, before any email sent, try to test it out. So for example, there is few methods to help you with that. So if we will talk about manual, so how you can test it, having just your mailbox on G Suite or Office 365, whatever. So basically, from what I would begin, so I will send email from this mailbox, which is I will use in the further email marketing campaigns, to mailboxes I have, for example, personal mailbox, to my friends, to my colleagues, and see where it lands. This is the first thing I would do before any email would be sent from the entire domain mailbox. And if we will talk about really high volumes, 1 million plus or so, you need for sure understand how you can manage your current score, what is the current score, or you will end up with 5 or 1 up to 5% open rate, and no one will click or answer to your email. And by doing it manually, you need to understand that there is a lot of manual work, because you can send, for example, if, the common situation. So basically, if you're a user of Google Workspace and you have a mailbox under the G Suite or Workspace, you send email and the recipient will receive it from the one of the Google IP addresses that they address to you. So basically, when you set up your domain under the G Suite or Google Workspace right now, email service provider, so this is the Gmail, right? And you put the right settings to your domain, which is like the thing I talked before about email infrastructure. When you choose the Google Workspace as your main email service provider, you need to set up your records, DNS records, especially MX, DKIM record under your domain in order to give ability your domain to use Gmail. And when you put the SPF record from the Gmail, it will eventually it contains a lot of like 10 plus IP addresses that Google assigned for each and every client. And by meaning that, they will give you shared IP addresses that a lot of people uses alongside with you. A lot of companies basically putting the same record on their domain, under their domain records, will use the same IP addresses, right? And when you send email to your recipient, it will put the one of those IP addresses over your email, and on the recipient side, spam systems will analyze from what domain, what recipient, what sender was sent those emails, and what kind of IP that they use before they press the button, right? And you will have different results on different recipients, basically, because Google each and every time put the different IP addresses on their emails for each and every recipient. So basically, this is by meaning shared IP addresses. So you never know the right like mailbox health because you will like use the range of different IP addresses if you're on the shared IP address. Different talk if you have dedicated IP address in place where you assign dedicated IP addresses under your mailboxes, and you for sure know this is your email health, this is your domain and mailbox sender score, and so on. Well, by the way, and with the Foldrily or ZeroBounce or a few other tools on market, you have automated way to test your current inbox placement rate, because we have on our end this kind of feature, inbox placement rate, that allow you to send email to our seed list, which is always like we have higher amount of different email addresses on the different ESPs to analyze each and every data, and we give you the like right insight on where you land on the Yahoo or Owl or any other like major ESP that your clients uses, right? So I will explain how we do it in the Foldrily, and Brian will give you some shed some light on how they will cover it with ZeroBounce. So with the Foldrily, for example, inside our platform, we have a solution that help you to analyze your current deliverability rate with having different mailboxes on different ESPs with different IP addresses. So basically, when you send your email, our system analyze each and every step of your health, of your domain settings, of your mailbox, and it will give you some insight where your emails end up. So for example, is it spam folder, is it promo folder, and what kind of ESPs have like major spam compliant with the current template, with the current setup, etc. So basically, this is how Foldrily works in a few words. And Brian, I know that ZeroBounce is doing a great job in terms of giving some insights on how current mailboxes or IP addresses or email service work. So it would be great if you will share it as well.
Sure. We have we have a few different tools, but to stick on the topic of inbox placement, I'll talk on the other tools a little bit later. But for inbox placement, we're doing something very similar. We're doing 22 seed accounts from the major providers across the world. And we basically are doing the same thing. We just want to help give you insight to the ability to see if you're inboxing going to the spam folder or not delivered altogether. And it's really insightful. And I even recommend your own email. Like if you have sales teams, these should be checking these things too. We use this once a week. It's part of protocol for my whole sales team. Every single guy needs to do an inbox placement test and see if something changed. We have found the slightest thing can change the deliverability, which some examples, link in an email signature to a calendar scheduler, boom, went right into spam because of that. So we had to change that. But these are things that you think, oh, I'm going to add this. So many people want to add, ask me to schedule a meeting, and I add that to my signature. And now that one change puts you in the spam folder, but you don't know that unless you test. So it's just, to me and for us, it's just so important that you test, especially if you're making changes, so you understand if that change was positive or potentially negative.
Right. Thank you, Brian. So let's move forward. And common thing with email deliverability, how to measure the success. So basically, how I can understand why my emails have like poor reputation, how I can be aware of that. So basically, the major thing to know that if you have low open rate, or you never receive the replies, or you have huge bounce rate, which is like your emails which you send return to you with some errors, and spam compliance for your users. So basically, you will see that you not that successful with your email marketing campaigns because of that, because there is industry benchmark with open rate. For example, to share some numbers, if we will talk about cold email marketing, cold email outreach, basically from my experience and with our clients, we're achieving 40-50% plus in terms of open rate, and 15 up to 20% in reply rate, because of following all of those things Brian and I mentioned before. So basically, there is marketing not that before 5 or 10 years ago. Now it's more technical. You need to take care of the major thing that affect the deliverability, because those ESPs, Gmail, Microsoft, each and every year, they put more and more restrictions because a lot of people can abuse those rules. And this is the reason why we have a lot of scammers, a lot of phishers that basically try to duplicate your DNS records, or simply change one letter in your domain and put the mirroring or so. This is why important to set up all of those DNS records, because you will avoid further problems, and your emails will have more trust before they reach the recipient. So if you under the low open rates, if we will talk about, if we're talking about cold email marketing campaigns, I mean 10%, 15%, 20%, it means something wrong, and it should be the warning bell or alarm for your email marketing department, or for SDRs or BDRs. And if you never receive, for example, replies, so this is the common thing I think for a lot of our clients. So basically, we have huge open rate, for example, 70%, right? And no one responds to your emails. It's kind of strange thing, right? It's weird because your emails, those people read your emails, but no one sent anything back to you. It's kind of something wrong, right? And basically, the most common thing that something wrong with your DNS records, and basically you messed up maybe with your DKIM record, which is authenticating your emails, this is your digital signature, or with SPF records, Sender Policy Framework, which is allow you to use each and every tool under your domain, or is it DMARC, which is Domain Authentication Protocol, which is filtering all incoming, outgoing emails out of your domains. So, and I shared some numbers for cold marketing campaigns, but a lot of people have those newsletters, have quite more volumes than 100 people from one mailbox. So there's a lot of people who are sending million, 10 million, 100 million emails to their subscribers list as a newsletter, webinar invitation, or any other promo materials that they sent from like customers that they collect over the like years. And basically, great open rate for those marketing campaigns would be up to 35% maximum from my experience. And if you're having open rate like up to 10%, something probably wrong with the things I discussed. I talked to you before. And this depends what metric next for you is replay rate or is the click-through rate, because all of those people in major their main metric is click-through rate, and for the click we have the metrics depending on the industry, right? It's 5 up to 10 maximum percent that those people click on your links. If you have less, this is probably something wrong with the things I discussed before. Probably your links end up in spam because your email is too heavy, or your links blacklisted. You never know if you never test your placement rate or blacklist monitoring on any other stuff. So let's move next and discuss how to effectively fix deliverability issues for my domain, for my mailboxes. Brian, have you some best practices in ZeroBounce, how to avoid those problems?
Yeah, we have one of those tools as well it's like a mail server configuration tester, and we run through all the RFC standards. You send us an email to one of our accounts, and we look to see if we spot issues as well, and we kind of give you a report, which you could take to a company like Folderly and have them help you fix those. For email validation, a lot of people may or may not have heard of it. However, it is a very critical part to email sending. So a few things that we just like to highlight. So what is email validation? It is validating that there's an actual inbox behind the email address that you have. And so when you're getting bounces, particularly hard bounces, those can be avoided. A hard bounce is you're sending to a mailbox that does not exist and you get a bounce back. As Vlad was showing and we were sharing earlier, you need a low bounce rate. It's very important because it's part of your reputation. So if your reputation is you send and you have 10, 20, 30, 40% bounce rates, which if you guys do, I'm preaching to you, please go, you need to fix that. That is way too high. If you have bounce rates over 2%, it's too high. And so you might be like, oh, well, my ESP suppressed it because it bounced. You're thinking too simple. No, your reputation has suffered as a result. And now the ESP is also watching you too to see what's going on. And so for validation, there's a lot of different ways that it can be done. For ZeroBounce, there's we have a lot of proprietary algorithms, but one of the main things that we do is we knock on the door. We basically create an SMTP connection, knock on the door of the mailbox, and get a response back from the mail server that it would accept mail. And so, sometimes that's easy to accomplish, and sometimes that's not. We start going to more proprietary algorithms. But validation is so important because you want to make sure you're sending to people that exist. This is a key word here. And one of the things that we have to constantly educate is you have to be emotionally unattached to the size of your list, and you want to be heavily emotionally attached to the quality of your list. So I have customers come to us all the time, high sending volume, they're sending 10, 20 million emails all the time. And we come and give them a report back that says 32% of your email list is not good. It's invalid. These are going to hard bounce. It does take a minute to remember that it's a good thing to remove that percent of invalid emails. And there's lots of other risky emails that I'll talk about as well. But don't be so attached to the size. I do know that a lot of people work very hard and some are getting double opt-ins and they're really doing everything. But if you are acquiring data, I can tell you this, if you're acquiring data, you cannot be attached to the size because you have no idea how that data was acquired and you don't know the quality of that data. So a company like ZeroBounce, what we would do is you would process that data into our system, we would run it, and then we would give you an output that would say, here's the guys you should send to, and only send to these guys. So there's some different ways that we can do it where we can help you segment. So you can send to highly valid and highly engaging customers. We also have engagement data on a lot of email addresses, so we can tell you if they've known activity out in the email marketing space. So that can also help a lot of people too, and you can segment those. But the goal and what ZeroBounce really is trying to help you do is get into the inbox. That is, again, that's when we wipe everything away. That's our mission for you as a customer, is to help you get into the inbox. And there's just so many pieces to it. But at the end of the day, like the quote says in the bottom, if you act like a spammer, you're going to land in the spam folder. I mean, you fit the bill. It's unfortunately what you're doing. And so we understand the concept that people want to do cold marketing, and you need new leads, and you need a way to do that. You got to do it the right way. That's the important part. Spammers don't do it the right way. They just take the bucket and throw the bucket. Just keep throwing buckets. Look through it. Segment the data. Look, you're delivering very well for Gmail and G Suite. Okay, ZeroBounce will help you identify that, segment and send to G Suite customers in one separate campaign. But what you should see is an increase in open rates, click through or replies, depending upon what your campaign is about, and really more effectiveness. Again, this is just going back to how much energy and time and money and people were involved with all these email campaigns. Everybody wants the best performance out of that, and a company like ZeroBounce and validation is very, very important piece of that. You want to remove the bad email addresses that are out there. So, Vlad, did you have anything there, or can you slip to the next slide?
I want to add something on top of that. So just to make a little summarize, email validation, like crucial standpoint of the working workflow with your database, with your leads, with email verification, and adding on top of that alongside with the database you need to take care of, you never forget about your mailboxes, about your current setup, about the content that you are sending. Because in the end of the day, if you're acting like a spammer, you end up in the spam folder. This is what Brian said. So basically, take care of the leads, take care of your domain, mailboxes, and content. So try to do everything top notch. And always test it, because you never know what current health of your mailboxes, current situation, if you are using shared IP addresses with Google or any other ESP. So basically you need to have those data in order to take some decisions. And so going more in deep, what does an email validator do? And again, ZeroBounce is top-notch tool. For our companies with Balkans, we using them for years, and we're really successful with our email marketing campaigns, with our database research, because we have this kind of trusted partner that help us to validate all leads we're researching at the end, and we have kind of highly targeted, hand-tailored leads at the end, because ZeroBounce participating in one of our steps of our crucial verification of those leads. And I guess Brian have words for how it works in detail. So go ahead.
Yeah. So sure. So when we go through and do validation, I kind of painted a very simple picture. It is much more complex than that. But to paint a simple picture, we try to find out if an email box really exists or not. If it does not exist, you do not want to send to it. Plain and simple. If it does exist, now we start going into details. Now we start looking at, okay, what type of inbox is this? We have some terms on the bottom here that you may or may not be familiar with, but spam traps. These are very problematic email addresses. And these email addresses do exist. So technically they are valid. But as a company like ZeroBounce, and what we'll do is we'll identify a spam trap. A spam trap is a email address in an inbox that exists, and if you send to it, you will automatically be blacklisted immediately. No questions asked. No, hey, how did you find us? These emails are put out onto the web, and they're put out onto lists that people are either scraping or they're acquiring through purchasing. But basically, they're designed to be found, and found in the wrong ways. Found through purchasing lists, found through scraping. And so when you send to it, it's a clear indicator that you didn't acquire this email as an opted-in email address, especially not a double opted-in, because a spam trap will never reply to you and tell you, hey, thanks for mailing me. So you want to remove those. Those are black and white. Those need to go. The abusers. So these are things that we've worked with so many sending companies, and also we have a lot of sending partners. And so what we do is we get a feedback loop, and we have the ability to tell you if we know an email address has marked email campaigns as spam 10 or more times. And so we'll go ahead and tell you we call them an abuser or a complainer, the same way you would look at it as a sender. You want to also remove those if those are people that are not used to receiving your email and do not want your email is really maybe the truth. And so when you do not remove them, those are people that are going to mark you as spam. Marking you as spam is up there as the worst possible thing that can happen to you if you got into inbox. So you did all this work, you got the campaign, you put it in an inbox, and everyone starts marking you as spam. Oh, it's detrimental. And so if we have people that we know will do this to you, they should come off of your list, because an unsubscribe is okay. It's actually considered engagement. They click the link. A report spam, as you guys know, it starts running through the feedback loops, starts reprogramming their spam filter on the inbox, starts reprogramming how G Suite might even look at you as a sender. So you want to remove them. Catch-alls, these are some emails that mainly business domains, where you have a business organization that has maybe people coming and going, and catch-all will allow anyone at the domain to receive mail. This can be like a failover or a fail-safe email, if you want to think of it that way, or accept all. There's a lot of different words for it. They're just riskier emails to send to, because ultimately you do not know who is seeing it. And so when you send to a catch-all and the person's name was John, you don't really know if John got that email. It could have gone somewhere else. And so for us, it's just a risky email. We'd like to highlight those for you. One of the other ones, there's also role-based emails, info at, sales at, support at. These are, again, they're riskier emails. I'm not saying don't send to them. I'm saying use the techniques that we're trying to show here, test, and then start segmenting. So I would put all my valid emails in one marketing campaign and send that separately, then start looking at the riskier ones, but separate it, because the deliverability could be different and you don't want that to cross over. So the other category, which is a really big one, many people don't even know they exist. These are disposable emails. I like to call them burner emails or self-destructing emails. These are email accounts that someone can go to a website, and there are thousands of these websites that produce an email address that is good for 10 minutes, 2 hours, 24 hours, usually not more than 24 hours. And they can send and receive mail from a web URL with no information at all. Just load the page and they have a mailbox. This is a way that people will get past your gated content or your promotion that you had to have a email address to get that promotion. And now you have them on your list and you're like, awesome, I have all these emails. But the second you send to it, it's going to bounce because that email does not actually exist 20 minutes later. So it's really important that you have the ability to detect those and you want to remove them out because, again, they will hard bounce. And now you're, again, just sending to hard bounces, you're ruining your reputation. So you do want to check those. We also do, for anyone that might have sign-up forms or collects the data, we have an API that you can hook onto the field of a form for email addresses. And before they submit it, even see what the status is and block the rejection, block the sign-up, or even potentially fix typos. So there's a lot of different things that email validation can do. Obviously, if we have a typo, we go to validate the email, we see that email is wrong. Maybe they, fat fingered it on their mobile phone or whatever it might be, just type too fast. We can sometimes offer a suggestive fix that you can offer back up to your customer saying, hey, did you actually mean to give me this email instead? So it's, again, a very important piece, but it's collecting good data, right? And so collecting good data and sending to good data is a really important piece of this puzzle. And so these are just very high level statuses that ZeroBounce provides. We go much deeper. We can segment free email accounts from business domains and lots of other things, and also just give you the ability again to segment so that you can have the most effective campaign that for you. And so that's what an email validator does, and that's a piece of how ZeroBounce does it. And again, we're doing probably 3 to 4 billion emails yearly on a validation status. We're a relatively new company, about 5 years, and we've really ramped up. And so very exciting stuff, but it's a very important piece.
Yeah, and want to add something to Brian. So, and from the database standpoint, even if you are using tools like ZoomInfo or Apollo or any other tool that provide you with some list, keep in mind that a lot of people alongside with you uses those leads, even maybe with even those same filters, like for example, chief executive officers in California with the companies like 200 people on board. And a lot of people do the same in terms of their targeting, and those tools and those kind of research search thing inside those tools kind of primitive, because it will show the same data for each and every client. So basically, if I will put those kind of segmentation, and Brian will, so we will have the same leads, and we will send the 2 emails instead of 1 if we will have the hand-tailored database, which we collected from scratch using our own methods, using our own tools, for example, or use all those tools and combine it with a database where you put a lot of efforts in terms of verification, lead bouncing, and understanding what kind of leads and where you get them. And basically, if you are buying some sort of list that contains millions of emails, it doesn't mean that those emails alive or those leads would be led you to success or something. There will be a lot of bounces. There will be a lot of dead mailboxes, because those databases out there buying a lot of people with you, and a lot of people bombarding those database with a lot of emails. So keep in mind that if we're working with the leads, you need to put an effort to always have a verification of those emails. Like Brian said, that you need to have some tool like ZeroBounce in place that will help you to know if there is any bounces, spam traps, or emails that harm your deliverability. You never know, right? So basically, yeah. Moving forward, what is an acceptable bounce rate and spam compliance rate? Basically, Brian said that up to 2% of the bounce rate acceptable, but you never can achieve the 100% because there is a lot of pitfalls. For example, if you're working with enterprise companies, they have put the investment in their cybersecurity and email security systems like Semantic, Barracuda, and any other tools that filtrating your emails basically. And even if you're email legit, even if you're having top-notch content, you 100% sure that this person owned this email, it never guarantees you that you will pass those filters. We can give you information that what kind of lead is it? Is it existing mailbox? But keep in mind that there is a lot of rules for some segment of the companies that not that easy to get to the inbox, but there is the ways. For example, those companies have rules like if you will receive 2 emails from one domain or for one recipient to different people. For example, I want to email CEO or chief operation officer, and I will send 2 email, which is called email outreach with the same content almost. It will block both of the email, but instead of sending 2, I will send 1, hand tailor it, account-based marketing, where I put an effort to the content, to the research, to the lead data, email address, etc. And I will have much more success in terms of getting to their inbox. And talking about spam compliant rate, basically, the brand said that you need to understand if your content never legit and your leads brought from somewhere. A lot of people will like basically report you as a spammer because they never receive emails from you. You never validate those emails. You send email to spam traps and any other like harming the mailbox and domain things over the email. And basically, to give you an idea, so basically you can kill your domain mailboxes if you never filtrate your email addresses and if you will ignore those kind of best practices that already have in place major number of companies. So if you will like ignore those kind of things like DNS, leads, validation, it doesn't matter what kind of bounce rate or spam rate you have, you will end up in spam. You kill your domain, you kill your IP address, and best thing you will do is buy a new domain, start build a reputation from the scratch. And I think we are solving for our clients. We want to have that our clients will have one domain, a lot of mailboxes for all of their marketing campaigns, and they will build trust with their domain mailboxes basically. And over the years, if you will follow those rules, it will have the like great effect on your sender score, on your health, and you will be more successful with your email outreach basically. Moving to the next question. So how often do you validate your email list? So from my experience, from the best practices we have, all database we're gathering, it will be old, I guess, from the months after we sent our marketing campaigns, or it will just be in place. So basically, you need to like more often put more efforts in updating your data list, updating the data information, because for example, people have a ability to move to another company basically and have another email, another mailbox, another everything basically. And you need to keep your data up to date in terms of avoiding bounces, in terms of avoiding all of those problems that we mentioned before. And from our experience, over the months, you need to like put an effort to research and validate your database and clean it with, like, for example, ZeroBounce, basically. Brian, any thoughts on how you're doing from your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's not always one answer for this question either. And so I'm just going to put some thoughts out there for people to think where they fall. So if you are a B2B sender, you're sending to businesses, your ability to have higher churn in your email list, it's going to be higher. Good examples of this is the last year and a half with the pandemic, the Great Resignation. People are moving from company to company right now. It's very common. And so what happened to that guy's email address who's still in Zoom Info, who's still in all of these tools that say he works, and does this. So if you're a B2B sender, you need to validate more often. I would tell you that at minimum, you should validate that email every 6 months. Some of our really high volume senders will do this every 3 months. And that's again, because you don't know what happened in that time period. And you will find churn. If you do it every 2 months, you will find churn. It's just be smaller amounts. If you're a consumer, if you're sending emails to consumers, so you're B2C, consumer emails typically last a little bit longer. I think we all have, a Gmail, Yahoo, Yandex, any of these type of free email accounts that we have been using, and we still have it, 5, 8, 10 years later. So those do tend to go dead slower, and you can sometimes get away with doing it 6 months or a year. I don't recommend going out that far, but I recommend minimum 6 months for everybody. But, look at your list and your business better than I do and better than Vlad does. You have to know your data. And so are you consumer driven or are you business driven? And use some of those different kind of points to change how you think about it. The one thing with consumer emails that's important is making sure you don't forget that these guys who mark as spam, you want to get those guys out too. Those are very heavy, because in the free email world, it's easier to get that feedback. when these people are marking you as spam. And so you still, even if consumer want to validate, I would say minimum 6 months. And if you're really good at this and you see the value, which you should, I would do this as often as possible. And when you get the data, that is probably the most important part, because you want to make sure before you send it once that it's good data to send to. So from a maintenance standpoint, I would look at it every 6 months minimum after that.
Sounds good, Brian. Yeah, let's share more tips and tricks on how to improve deliverability after cleaning the list, cleaning the database. Want to start over, or let me?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about it a little bit. So for the mail server and inbox server testing, these are somewhat what we've already talked about for a mail server. So at ZeroBounce, you get, every single person can get a free email server configuration test, a free inbox placement test, and a free blacklist monitor. The blacklist monitor can be a IPv4, IPv6, or your domain. So you would want to see if you're falling onto a blacklist, or if you already are on a blacklist. We have the ability to run scans. We have paid packages as well that will give you more and do it more often. But still, at minimum, you should be checking to see if you're on blacklist, and you want to make sure that it's not just domain, that's also your IPs that you're sending from. So you want to check those. As we mentioned about the inbox placement tester as well, there's one more piece that I think is very big, and we did talk about it a little bit, but I want to really stress it, because I do see a question here about it as well, about catch-alls. If you have catch-alls on your list, these are the riskier emails. We have a second tool that you can lay on top of that, which will give you the activity data on those. So we have known known openers, clickers, forwarders, unsubscribers, and mobile application logins. So people logging into apps, a lot of these free games, these guys make money somehow. So they are sharing the data of people who are logging in. A company like ZeroBounce can get access to that data, and now we can give you some comfort to that email as really exists, right? Because they created a password, they opted into the account, whatever it might be. So, to answer kind of the question, can I use catch-alls? Yes, but you need to take one more step, and let's see if we can find activity on them, or, give you some insight. Historically, if you're doing cold email, I would say don't send catch-alls. And that's going to hurt a lot of feelings. And I get a lot of looks for saying that. But if you are able to layer in more data, you can usually get back 30 to 50% of those catch-alls and turn them into, I want to mail those guys. And by removing that other piece that most likely will bounce because we have no activity, we have no idea, it can really help with your campaign. So just catch-alls can be very risky. They can go to lots of people, and that one email send got 20 spam complaints. It can be really hurtful. And people just aren't, sometimes always thinking about how deep this can really go. But also remember how you run your own business. We all have those infos and sales and all of those type of boxes. And I see it on my own team. They mark it as spam. So, just be careful and segment the data. It's really important.
Yeah. And to add more thing that we already cover. So, the main thing with deliverability, there is the complexity of those steps that you need to combine everything. You need to combine leads, you need to combine technical settings about your domain, IP addresses, and mailboxes. And you need to start to analyze the data, where you're standing right now in terms of your score, health, and if there is any IPs in place, if there's a blacklist or so. So basically, if you will starting to analyze your current setup, if you will analyze what is wrong right now, why I have those performance with my email addresses. So for sure, you will find area of improvement. For example, you can have three variety of the mark record under your domain. You can be in the quarantine or reject or none, doing nothing with your out in emails from the domain. Or if you're using shared IP addresses, the common thing with shared IP addresses that a lot of people using those IP addresses with you, and they affect the deliverability of entire IP addresses. And for average Google IP address, for example, they have around, like, from what we faced before, like 500 companies as a minimum using the same IP address with you if you are on the shared IP address. If we're talking about Google Workspace, for example, it isn't bad, but you never have the full control of your IP address, right? But the great thing with it is Google, right? If you're a user of Gmail, they unlist your basically your IP address from the blacklist on the next day, or even like faster. Basically, this is how Google works. Yeah, and like moving forward to Q&A session. So we have a few questions over the chat. So Brian already answered for the catch-all email, what you need to do for your catch-alls. From our experience at Balkans, for example, Folderly, we suggest you to separate. For example, if you have your database with valid leads, with catch-all leads, with spam traps, like try to split up your campaigns. For example, use one mailbox for sending valid leads. It will have less harm from the each and every email sent from it. And you can use catch-all from another mailbox, and you will compare basically performance for those kind of leads. And at the end, you will see that, well, it for sure will work better, but saying something about catch-all, so you will have an answers, but not that many for as like using the valid leads for all of your email marketing campaigns. So we have questions, by the way, about what the email marketing trends for next year. So to answer that, I have some thought already. So basically, you need to be more personal. You need to take care of all of those things I mentioned before. So talking about being more personal, using your personal like business email address, but not like info at something, sales at something, or partnership at something. Use your like vlad@folderly.com. So basically your mailbox, which is your for email marketing campaign, because staying more personal give you the trust over the recipients. Because if you're sending emails from your mailbox, it's not kind of newsletter that comes from the info mailbox, right? The few more trends, for sure, test your emails, test your domains, test everything before you hit the press button, like a send button, because you can like gather great leads, as I mentioned before, create a great content copy, and at the end, if you will hit the like send button, you will end up in spam because you never tested before. Maybe someone messed up with your domain already because he wanted to change some DNS record. He like didn't tell anyone about that, and you will eventually mess it up with your like email marketing campaigns. Brian, what do you think about the more trends? Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely what you're saying. And from everything that I'm seeing, it is segmenting further and smaller campaigns, highly targeted, and highly focused towards your audience. And so, you know, if you watch how these things have evolved, you've seen clothing emails, and it's like men's and women in the same email. That's how we started. And then it's like, well, maybe I should start sending the women's clothing to women, and then they start segmenting that. And it's like, well, we have summer dresses, and in, you know, parts of the country where it's hot right now, we should start to send summer dresses, and then where it's cold, we should send winter coats and things of this nature. So to me, how I see it is, if you want engaging content, you have to put it on the person's chest and they feel it when you sent it to them. And there's a reason that they want to buy or reply to your emails. So this, my opinion, this approach of shotgun, you know, spray and pray, as I like to say it, you know, it's going away, and you're going to just find more and more problems by trying to do that. So start becoming focused and laser focused on who and why you're sending to them, and slow down. That's another recommendation. Think about it, put thought into all of your procedure, and make sure everything's effective.
Yeah, So moving forward for the next question from Daniel. Hi guys, what is the best email outreach tool out there? So there is that many. So it depends on the type or nature of your email marketing. If you're using like it for B2C marketing, for warm email addresses and warm subscribers that subscribe to your website, newsletter, or so, it usually comes to the MailChimp or tools that help you to send like HTML letters, because most of the cases, if you are sending emails to the B2C segment, you will use HTML letters. For example, if you're an e-commerce company, for example, one more company that help you with, if you're an e-commerce company, Klaviyo, it's doing a great job in terms of sending emails, building sequences, etc. And the thing with Klaviyo and MailChimp, for example, they're using their own IP addresses, but they vary that strict with anything you are doing with your email outreach. For example, if you will send emails to, like, for example, million leads that you bought somewhere, they will suspend your account basically, because it doesn't work this way. Because if you're like act like a spammer, you will like depend spam, and even more, those tools have this kind of authentication process where they analyzing all like outgoing traffic from the domain mailboxes you connected to those tools basically. And MailChimp, for example, having the great ability to filtrate spammers. If you have higher bounce rate, for example, they will suspend your account, or you will have a warning that if you will like continue by doing this kind of email outreach because you have high bounce rate, they will suspend your account basically. And the same thing with unsubscribe rate, because if there is like 50% people who doesn't want like to receive your emails, they will basically unsubscribe, and all of those kind of signals will get to the MailChimp, and they will again, you will have a warning. So if we're talking about cold marketing campaign, so cold email outreach, basically cold marketing, there is great tools that we're using from our best practices. I would suggest to use Outreach.io, Reply.io, and SendGrid or Woodpecker. So this kind of great companies to start your marketing campaigns. Also SalesLoft as well, doing a great job in terms of delivering your emails and managing the campaign sequences and the whole thing. And a few more thing from you. Does Folderly helping with the listing out of the spam filters? Yes, and it doing automatically. Basically, what Folderly doing? So basically, you connect your domain, you connect your mailboxes, you connect your IP addresses there, and Folderly starting to analyze the current situation with your sender, sender score, sender reputation, and give you some insights on where you're staying at, where your emails end up with which folder. And if it end up in spam, basically what folder you're doing is starting to delist it from different blacklists. It's starting to delist from those ESPs like G Suite, Yahoo, AOL, Office 365, Exchange, etc. So basically, it's doing automatically. Moving next, I was wondering how much bad leads harm mailbox domain deliverability. From your experience, Brian, how many leads harming deliverability?
So I'm going to assume a bad lead maybe does not exist. So the lead, you purchased a lead and you bounced, or they never replied, or mainly, I mean, it's bad. Think of it that way. If you're saying it's a bad lead, they obviously are going to hurt your reputation. So continue, especially if you continue to send to them. So if you're trying to send to emails and boxes that don't exist, or people that are marking you as spam, that's another thing. I commonly see it even in my own inbox. Like, I have no way to unsubscribe. I never asked for your email. I'm marking you as spam. And then you keep emailing me and mark you as spam. I mark you as spam. So, at some point you should abandon a cold lead that has no interest in your product, because if they had interest, they would reply to you. So I would define bad leads in maybe two ways. One, it doesn't exist. It's a dead lead. A dead lead should be removed, and it can hurt a lot. When you continuously send to bad leads, you should abandon them at some point. You might want to re-engage them down the road, but pause from continuing to send them emails because it's not going to help you.
Thanks, Brian. Moving next, we have plenty of question here. So does email validation helps you to be out of the blacklist? I guess it's addressed to you.
Yeah. So yes, directly would help you get out of a blacklist. Now, just to be clear, if you're on a blacklist, you need to get off of it. However, if you're not on blacklist and you use a tool like email validation, you will remove these spam traps, these complainers, and all these other risky emails. Again, as I mentioned, if you send to a spam trap, you're going to be automatically listed. This is an automated process, and there's millions of emails going into that every single day. So yes, validation can absolutely help keep you off of it, or make sure you don't get on there in the first place.
And the second question from the Aneta, should I reapproach bounced emails later?
So this is a really good question. It depends. I would say a hard bounce, a recipient not found, no. Sorry, bury it. It's gone. You might want to look for an alternative email. Maybe this person went to another company and they're in the company now that could be a good fit. But if you are talking about maybe a soft bounce, the mailbox was full, or mailbox, there's so many reasons that soft bounces can happen, something downstream happened. You might want to re-engage it. I think that's okay, but you need to, again, just be careful. I would keep all of these things segmented. My ultimate recommendation would be probably not to reapproach them, but if you do think there's value in them, take some steps, make sure, validate it again. We should be able to pull out if it's a hard bounce. Again, no, you should not reapproach it. You're just going to get a second bounce. That's all you're going to do.
Thanks, Brian. Mm-hmm. So next question, should I do warm up for each mailbox, or one under the domain will be enough? The great question about the whole warm up process. So to answer that, you need to understand that what is the warm up? Basically, warm up, it's like process where you like sending some emails from your main mailbox that you're planning to send email from to having like some effect on your deliverability. For example, you're sending those emails to your friends, ask them to unspam you, or colleagues that will like receive your emails. And if it like end up in spam on promo folder, you will ask them to move to important or to the inbox. And why you do need to warm up your mailboxes before everything, like each and every email will go from the mailbox. Basically, you need to understand, if you like bought the domain yesterday and connect the Google Workspace, for example, create mailboxes, and want already like bombarding some people with your emails, you need to understand that there is the thing that all of those systems analyzing the age of your domain, age of your mailboxes. And this is the common thing what spammer does, right? So they buying a lot of domains, creating hundreds of mailboxes, and starting to send a lot of emails, and you will basically end up in spam. But if you will warm up your mailboxes, your domain, or your IP addresses by sending, for example, low volumes, if I will send emails from the new domain, new mailbox, I will start from the low volumes. For example, I will start not from the even 100 emails per one mailbox or per domain. Per mailbox, I would love to start with 10, 20, 25, and like I will grow exponentially depending on what kind of target I have. If I'm talking about cold email marketing, I will send 200 emails per one mailbox with, like, for example, 300 second delay between emails, because this is the best practices, because you need to be more personal with your cold email marketing campaigns in order to end up in inbox. And if we will talk about B2C emails, warm emails, you will like grow significantly up to like 10,000 emails per hour or so, but you need to do it, like grow it exponentially, but do not try to send emails like a million emails from new domain, or common practices. If I have a case from my experience, one of our client want to do rebranding. They buying new domain. They have 1 million leads from the leads they gathered over the years. They move to new domain, and the first thing that they do, they send 1 million emails. We did the rebranding. This is our brand, and they messed up with their domain, mailboxes, with the leads, even emails for forgetting password with verification new password end up in spam. And we started to work and starting to fix this eventually, because you need to understand that there is a lot of things that you need to take care of. And is it one mailbox under the domain will be enough? This is the common misunderstanding. Each and every domain have their own health, let me say that. And under those domains, you have a lot of mailboxes. With those mailboxes, there is a lot of people: salespeople, marketing people, finance, legal, and any. So basically, those mailboxes have their own reputation, because if your colleague don't know how to send emails, and he or she will send bad emails, it will appear it will happen that they have poor performance. They never this is the kind of open rate thing or replay thing or click-through rate. They will see the low response. But for example, if his colleague will send more emails, doing efficiently, sending right content to the right leads, debouncing those leads before they send those emails, it will appears that they have more opens, more replies as more results at the end. So basically, we have from our experience thought that you need to take care of each and every mailbox that involved to the email marketing, even though under the domain, if you want to maintain domain health, you need to have a lot of mailboxes maintaining the health of the main domain. Because by the way, this is the thing I want to mention before I talk further. To understand if mailboxes or domain will end up in spam, or you destroyed your domain, there is any problem with domain, try to create fresh mailboxes or mailbox from one domain you own, and try to send email to your personal mailbox or to, for example, your friends or colleagues. And if freshly created mailboxes with the trust content will end up in spam, you can see the problem where your domain end up in spam or blacklisted. And the great thing is to monitor that, having the one fresh mailbox is to send emails to your mailboxes that you have or your friends having. So this is the one more thing about why you need to test emails. Yeah, so to answer that, you need to have more than one mailboxes under the domain in order to maintain domain health. But if you want to maintain just mailbox, it will be enough. And last question, can I send free Gmail, Outlook emails? Can I send to those free mailboxes? I know for my experience, all free mailboxes having catch-all verification, I guess, all those personal mailboxes, because you never know exactly is mailbox does exist, basically. And from my experience, it's better to avoid personal mailboxes, because it's hard to validate and it have more impact to your deliverability, because there is a lot of people who do not want to receive your email, basically. And they basically, in most of the cases, report you as a spammer. From your experience, Brian, will you suggest to use personal mailboxes?
So, yeah, I would. Where I would say be careful is around Yahoo. There's a lot of things that are happening with Yahoo, but a company like ZeroBounce, we can validate Gmail accounts. We will tell you if it exists or doesn't exist. You might find higher spam complaint rates there, like Vlad's mentioning, but there are some kind of problematic free domains, and I think maybe that's good to highlight. Yahoo is one of them. There's a disabled state that Yahoo emails can sit in where it does hard bounce, but we see it as a valid email address, and everyone will see it as a valid email address. And then when you turn around and send to it, it will bounce and say the mailbox is disabled. We also see this sometimes with Outlook, where the configuration of the domain might cause an issue, or just in general, it's in a very weird state. So I will tell you this, with ZeroBounce, you can feel confident sending to Gmail accounts. You can feel confident sending to a lot of the free email accounts. We're very good at validating them, meaning we'll tell you if the inbox exists or not, but it might come with more problems like Vlad's mentioning. But for some people, that's a lot of their email list, especially if you're B2C.
Thanks, Brian. I guess this was the final question we had. So thank you for participating in our session. It was a pleasure to meeting you. I guess it would be helpful for all of our listeners. Also, there was first question: will be recorded? Yeah, we will send the record over the email, and we will upload it to YouTube channel for sure. So everyone who missed it will see it on our YouTube channel or over the email, basically. So yeah. Thank you very much, Brian. Hope you enjoyed, and hope everyone had fun with us today and it was helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Vlad. I really appreciate you having me on, and I hope the content was useful for the audience today.
Thank you, Brian.